to another episode of Leatherneck Insider. I'm Avery Thompson.
And I'm Nick Grunwald. The Macomb High girls volleyball team won the Sherrard Regional last Thursday by defeating Sherrard in 2 sets, 25-10 and 25-9. This was Macomb's first regional championship since 2019. They followed up a regional championship defeating the number 1 seed Princeton on Monday in 3 sets at the Knoxville sectional semifinals. They now look forward to tonight's sectional championship game against Quincy Notre Dame. With the win, this would be Macomb's first sectional championship since 1976. Good luck, ladies.
Staying on the court, the Macomb High boys basketball team is just weeks away from starting their season, and it already is some excitement around it. Earlier this week, it was announced that Macomb came in at number 23 in the 2A preseason top 25 poll. The Bombers will look to move up the rankings starting November 22nd at the Spartan tip-off.
Moving from the basketball court to the gridiron, the Macomb High football team played in their first round playoff game last Saturday, losing to Murfreesboro by a score of 43-22. This was Macomb's first playoff berth since 2012, and they have a lot to be proud about and to look forward towards in the upcoming years. The loss ends Macomb's season, and the Bombers finished with a 6-4 record. Congratulations on a great season.
Switching from Bomber football to Leatherneck football, Western Illinois welcomed in-state rival Illinois State over the weekend in the MFVC Game of the Week. Reporter Kylie Rogers has more.
WIU football welcomed the Redbirds to Hanson Field over the weekend where the Leathernecks came from behind, winning their first home game this fall. The Leathernecks were able to add 6 points in the first quarter from the leg of Mason Laramie and followed with a touchdown in the second quarter, finishing the first half 21-13 Redbirds. In the second half, the Leathernecks outscored the Redbirds 25-10. This eventually securing them their second win of the season and giving some bragging rights to WIU. In that game, Conor Sampson became a new program holder in single-season pass completions, moving past Paul Singer's 239 mark. Sampson currently sits with 253 completions this season. Coach Elliott has more on Conor.
Conor specifically, he's so special, and it's been a lot of fun for all of us on the staff to see where he's come from since his true freshman to year to where he is now, and it's just he's a great example of a guy that has stayed the course and he's persevered, and he's waited his turn, he's done everything the right way, and it's been very rewarding to see how Conor, even in the midst of adversity and wins and losses, not where we want it to be, how he continues to show up and lead and work, and how he prepares. He's a veteran guy in every sense of the word, and I love him dearly, and this whole team does, and we have a lot of respect for him, as well as many of our other seniors that just continue to rally the troops every week, and they're a resilient bunch of guys that do care and have pride in who they are in this Leatherneck program, and Conor Sampson embodies all that for sure.
The Leathernecks will host South Dakota in the final home game on Saturday. Then, later in November, will travel to northern Iowa to wrap up their season. Reporting for Leatherneck Insider, I'm Kylie Rogers.
Thank you. Thanks, Kylie. The WIU cross-country team ran in their first postseason race this past weekend. Orlin Otis, Isaiah Mormon, and Malia Huston all broke personal records, while Habibu Moose and Polina Westerfeld and Madison Trevina led the team to placing 7th for the women's team and 6th for the men's. The team will head to Iowa City November 12th for an NCAA for regionals. Don't go anywhere, because coming up right after the break, we touch break on WIU's women's soccer forward Amy Andrews and recap their season.
Your vision.
My goal is to work at a top 100 television station as a reporter, anchor, and a producer.
Our mission.
Thanks to Western, I have a resume that would beat out most students from the top journalism schools in the country.
This is Western Illinois University.
I am a success story. I am a Leatherneck.
Welcome back into Leatherneck Insider. Forward Amy Andrews has been on a tear this year. She was named to the All-Summit League second team this past weekend, but her biggest accomplishments were carving her name into the record books. After being a driving force behind this Leatherneck squad all season, Amy Andrews was able to finish out her historic season on top. It took the final weekend of the regular season, but Andrews was able to break the record for most goals in program history with 25. She achieved this outstanding accomplishment on the back of another record as she scored the most goals in a single season with 11. Andrews will be back for her 5th and final season next year, as she'll look to keep adding more and more goals to that count. For Leatherneck Insider, I'm Nate Grunwald.
Although the WIU women's soccer team missed the playoffs, they had one of their best seasons this year. The Leathernecks won 6 straight games to start their season and ended the season with winning the last 4 with a record of 11 wins, 6 losses, and 1 tie.
Coming up next on Leatherneck Insider, we check in on the men's soccer team, who are starting to find their stride as they approach the Summit League tournaments.
Taking me home, taking me home.
Here, I engineer the future.
Taking me home. Bring me back.
Here, I have countless opportunities.
Taking me home. Bring me back.
Here, I do research.
Right here at Western.
We are back with more Leatherneck Insider. Since the Leatherneck men's soccer team secured their first win of the season against St. Thomas University, they've stood their ground. Assistant coach Ludwig Rodlen told us how that affected the team's confidence.
I think that the guys are definitely happier. There's a little bit more confidence in them. They see that what we've done over the year is panning out, and I think that there's a lot of unfair results. There's also a lot of games we're winning, but I think that right now the guys feel good about themselves. They understand that what we are doing is panning out, and I think that in general the guys know that.
The Leathernecks will be going on and face Omaha November 6th. I'm your reporter from Leatherneck Insider, Abdullah Dukuri.
The WIU volleyball team took a trip to North Dakota this week, taking on the Fighting Hawks and then the Bison 2 days later. Their first match against the Fighting Hawks was a comeback victory for the Leathernecks as they completed the sweep over the Fighting Hawks, winning the match 3-2 with double-doubles from Aubrey Putman and Carly Wenzel. Maggie Craker also posted 46 assists and 33 digs, which were new career highs. 2 days later, they headed to North Dakota State. It was a hard-fought match for the Leathernecks, but they couldn't complete the victory, though many players collected high performances. Peyton Bowman and Emma Norris each contributed 10-plus kills, where Aubrey Putman added her 4th double-double, with 15 digs and 11 kills. The Leathernecks will have a 2-game homestand back at Western Hall next Thursday to take on the Coyotes from South Dakota at 7 p.m., and on Sunday taking on the Jackrabbits from South Dakota State at 11 a.m.
WIU men's basketball team was back at Western Hall for the first time for the 2021-2022 campaign. They hosted both Illinois Springfield and Monmouth College. The Leathernecks were able to come out victorious in both matchups, winning 92-80 and 88-34. They will begin regular season play as they travel to Lincoln to face off against the University of Nebraska.
When we come back, we look into a World Series update, college football rankings, and college basketball predictions. Don't go anywhere.
Western Illinois University. Our beginnings in 1902 focused on providing affordable teacher education training. We've changed with the times and excelled through the years. Today, Western is positioned for the next 100 years and beyond. Affordability of diverse academic programs, outstanding learning opportunities, and hands-on experiences provide excellent job placement for our graduates. This is Western, forever Western.
Welcome back to Leatherneck Insider. With baseball season finally coming to a close, a new World Series champion has been crowned. Leatherneck Insider reporter Avery Thompson has more.
Thank you, Nick. The Atlanta Braves defeated the Houston Astros in Game 6 for their first World Series win since 1995. The Braves pitcher Max Fried tossed 6 scoreless innings and struck out 6. Jorge Soler, Dansby Swanson, and Freddie Freeman all hit home runs to give the Braves the lead. Astro pitcher Luis Garcia only went 2 2/3 inning, giving up 3 earned runs in the 3rd inning. The Braves bullpen kept the Astros from scoring, making the Braves win 7-0. Soler was named the 2021 World Series MVP. The Braves started off the series with a win in Game 1 and held the Astros for Game 3 and 4 to bring them a series lead 3-1 going into Game 5.
Going from the diamond to the football field, the college football rankings were released last night on ESPN, and many people were disappointed with the committee's choices. The top 4 teams consist of Georgia, Alabama, Michigan State, and Oregon, with Ohio State and Cincinnati rounding out the top 6. Based on the rankings, it's important to note that the committee decided Oregon's win over Ohio State is bigger than their loss to unranked Stanford and Cincinnati's road win over number 10 Notre Dame. The rankings are bound to change as they do every season, especially with a top 5 matchup on the horizon between Ohio State and Michigan State. So it'll be interesting to see how much these rankings unfold each week and what direction the committee ultimately decides to go.
The weather is starting to get cold and Halloween just ended, so that can only mean one thing. College basketball is finally upon us. Leatherneck insiders Dane McElwee and Will Thomas sit down and discuss college basketball.
Hello everyone, I'm Dane McElwee, and alongside me is one of the most knowledgeable basketball analysts to ever come out of Western, Will Thomas. Will, let's start off with last year's runners-up, Gonzaga. Gonzaga lost some key pieces to last year's team, but they were able to revamp their roster in the offseason. Will, do you think Gonzaga is the real deal?
Yeah, once again, Gonzaga comes into this basketball season as the king of the mid-majors. Some like to say they're not a mid-major, but they are a mid-major in my eyes because they play in a mid-major conference. They come in for the second straight year as that preseason #1, still trying to find that first championship. Now, with that being said, they have had 2 Final Four appearances in the last 4 years, 3 Elite 8 appearances in the last 3 out of 4 years. So with that being said, they are known for that big spotlight to get to the big games. Like you said, they do come in with a big recruiting class, and that's all by Chet Holmgren. The freshman comes in 7 foot, can dunk, can shoot, can play all the way. And once again, Mark Few has found ways to get people to Spokane, Washington. They have the 96 consecutive week. The Zags are in the AP poll, which is the longest streak in the nation. But with that nation and with that streak, it all comes down to the senior Drew Timme. Timme is a preseason All-American, 19 points last year, 7 rebounds, and over 2 assists. So with that being said, it's a lot of the pressure is going to fall on him at the beginning of the season. And with the schedule, the biggest thing for Gonzaga is who they play. Conference schedule is not tough. So non-conference schedule has to be very tough. And they made sure they did that. Number 5, Texas. Number 2, UCLA. And number 9, Duke are all on the schedule, as well as matchups against Texas Tech and other Power 5 schools. So Gonzaga, I think, is the real deal. They've just really got to find the way to win the big game and get them that championship.
Yeah, I definitely agree with you. Gonzaga really hit the jackpot this offseason with both transfer portal and recruiting, which I think will help them guide back to March. For the first time since 1976, Blue Bloods, Kentucky, and Duke missed the tournament. What do they have to do to get back to the big dance?
Yeah, it was definitely weird not seeing either one of these schools in the tournament, as they have been in every tournament in our lifetime since then. For Duke, we're going to start there. They decided, we got to revamp the roster. They only have 4 scholarship players on the team from the last year's team on this roster. So that's a huge start. They got the number 4 recruiting class paced by top 10 freshmen Paolo Banchero and A.J. Griffin. But I think the biggest thing they did was dip into the transfer portal, and they went out and added Theo John from Marquette. Theo averaged 8 points and 5 rebounds for the Golden Eagles last year, and he's a big inside presence for them. Now, Duke's biggest concern, I think, this year for them is his Coach K's last season. So a lot of media attention is going to be around that, and everything's going to be more revolved around that than actually the game itself. So they're going to have to put away the spotlight of Coach K and just play basketball. Now for Kentucky, last year was the worst season in almost 100 years, going 9-16. So what did they do? Something like Duke. They revamped the whole roster. Normally, Kentucky's used to losing players to the draft. Only lost 1 player to the draft last year, the 22nd overall pick. Ended up losing Terrence Clark to a tragic accident last year as well. He would have been a draft pick. So Calipari went out and hit the transfer portal as well. Went out and got Xavier Wheeler from Georgia, who was the SEC assist leader. So not only did you get a great passer, but you got somebody from your own conference to come to you. And then I think another one was grab 3-point shooting guard C.J. Frederick from Iowa. Both of these players will find a way to pass. CJ also doesn't turn the ball over the ball, has one of the best turnover to pass assist ratios in the game. The nice thing for us is between Duke and Kentucky, we'll want to see who's back, who's real, and we'll get to see that on night 1 as both these teams play in the first game of the season on November 9th.
So, Will, do you think these teams had the offseason? Do you think they can get back to March?
Yeah, I think without COVID was a weird year for many teams. You didn't see the quite offseason, and both of these teams rely on freshmen and incoming players, so that could definitely, I think, hurt them, not getting them into the system. So both of these teams will be back. I expect Kentucky to win the SEC and probably be a 1 or a 2 seed And same with Duke. I think they won't win the ACC just because they usually fall, but expect them on a 3-seed line come March, and both these teams back in the tournament.
Yeah, I definitely agree with you. I think both of these teams will be back in the tournament. So let's shift gears. Last year was a very successful season for both the Big Ten and the Big 12 conferences. Both experiences losses by either the draft or transfer portal. How do you think, or do you think that these conferences will repeat the success they saw last year?
I mean, that's the question. Both of these teams last year battled from the start to the finish on who was the best conference. You know, you had times where there would be 9 teams in the top 25 for the Big Ten, but then the Big 12 would have 7 and they'd have 4 in the top 10. So you had that kind of competition. This year, we already had, so Big Ten had 9 teams in the field, which was a record, tied the record. Big 12 had 7. So like you said, they're going to lose some stuff. But this year coming in just the preseason top 25, the Big Ten has 5 teams in the top 25, which is huge, but in 3 of those in the top 11. But the Big 12 has 3 teams only in it, but all those teams are inside the top 8. So when I look at this, I look at the Big Ten, you know, you think the Big Ten's deeper because you have 5 teams in the top 25, and that doesn't even include the 3 teams that are receiving votes. So you say top 8 teams in the top 50. Whereas the Big 12 only has 3 teams in the top 8, so they're going to be very top-heavy, which you would normally expect from the Big 12 as they are more of a top-heavy league with Kansas, Baylor, etc. But they have some teams also receiving votes in the top 40, so I think they're kind of going deep depth. But at the end of the day, these teams are going to beat up on each other just like they did last year. I think the Big 10's deeper than the Big 12, but I still would expect these 2 conferences to be 1 and 2 at the end of the day with teams getting into the tournament as well as overall competition in basketball.
Yeah, 2 of the best conferences in college basketball. I think it'll be difficult for both conferences to have the success they had last year. I don't think they'll be as dominant. Nick and Avery, back to you guys at the desk.
Thanks, guys. Well, that's all the time we have here today. Don't forget to follow us on our new Twitter at InsiderWIU and Instagram, and give us a like on Facebook. I'm Nick Grunwald.
And I'm Avery Thompson. We'll be back next week for another episode of Leatherneck Insider. Have a great rest of your week.